Hi guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. So this is another question that I'm going to be answering today, asked by you guys. I'm continuing to do videos of the questions that you guys continue to ask me in the comments and in my coaching. So this one is super simple, and that is that what actually attracts the divine masculine to come back into your life physically, harmoniously, and all of those sort of things. So we've talked about this a lot in a lot of my videos. I talk about it a lot in my coaching as well. And of course, it's inner union, right? It's inner union. It's always going to be inner union. It's shifting into neutrality, and then it's anchoring in inner union. What is inner union? Inner union is the Heros Gamos within you. It is your unity consciousness. It is the merging of the masculine and feminine polarities within you and bringing down source and creating the Trinity within you. This is what creates inner union within and then without, right? So I've had a lot of people kind of, be concerned that they're feeling like they're in inner union. They're fully in inner union. But at the same time, they're asking me like, I'm in inner union, so where is my twin, right? Where is the physical aspect of my twin? I'm in inner union, but they're still showing up the same way they've always shown up, or they're not showing up at all. Or when I talk to them, it seems like they've made a shift, but then they fall back into the old, paradigm or whatever, and then they, fall away again. So have the awareness that when you're fully and truly in inner union, you're going to know it, because you're not going to be concerned on what the divine masculine is doing, who they're with, or if they're coming back. You won't be concerned about it. And it doesn't mean that you don't care, right? I've said this a lot. It doesn't mean that you don't care, because not caring would be coming from an ego programming. It means that you've come into union within, which means you've collapsed duality, you've neutralized polarization. You know that the twin is you, fully and completely, without reservation, without doubt. You know it's them, that's me, And you know that whatever path that they are continuing to walk is the soul's path, that is your soul that is walking another path, right? And you know that you trust that path, and you're not questioning it. You're not wondering when they're going to show up. You're not wondering if they're going to show up at all, because now you're completely back in union with you. You're completely back in union with God. You're completely back in the resonance of soul, of higher self, of oneness, of union, of all of those sort of things. So have that awareness that we will start to feel this relief when we come into neutrality and when we start shifting in and out of inner union. You can feel these moments of relief. You can actually also feel moments of feeling like, why am I not interested in my twin anymore? Or why don't I feel as attracted to them as I used to anymore? Why don't I feel that passion or that pull or that yearning? And a lot of feminines will feel like guilty for this, or feel like they're doing something wrong, or feel like, where did that energy go that I always felt? And maybe this isn't my twin at all if I can't feel that anymore. And it'll feel like kind of like a void stage, or like, this feeling of disassociation and all of these sort of things. This is a completely normal thing if you start to feel that. It's just shifting you more and more into that vibration, the awareness, the embodiment of oneness, right? Of union, of unity. So when you're truly in inner union, that's when ultimately the masculine can show up physically, harmoniously, and stay in your life in a harmonious way. Until you've gotten to that point, you're gonna kind of be doing this, right? You're gonna kind of be doing the waffle, doing the wave, continuing to do the spiral, and all of these sort of things, because this process takes time, and it is, as I've said 100 times, being led organically by the higher self that is you, right? And so what happens is that the mind starts feeling like, oh, well, aren't they, I know that because we're learning this, right? We're learning, the mind is learning this, that when I come into neutrality and when I start to feel this peace and this relief, that must mean that I'm coming into inner union. And instead of embracing that, right? And this is what happens a lot. Instead of just embracing that and being like, wow, this feels better, right? I feel better, right? Initially, what we wonder is, oh, wow, this feels great. So that means they're coming back in, right? Because the mind has learned that when we come into neutrality, when we start feeling that we're coming into inner union, then that means that we're going to attract the physical masculine back in a harmonious way. And so the mind starts talking again, starts telling stories again around, well, but this means this, and then that means this thing, and then that means this, and so where are you? You know, it's been whatever. And so then what happens is that inadvertently, most of us unawareingly fall back into the fear-based energy of waiting, of wondering, of having that sort of curiosity, right? Because the mind is saying, but this is what this is supposed to mean. Neutrality means this, right? Inner union means this. And so the mind wants its proof that inner union and neutrality actually do mean that. And so the mind starts looking for that proof, right? The ego starts looking for that proof. And that in and of itself is the downfall. Because as soon as we start looking for that proof, we are moving from duality again, right? This situation with the twin will not work if we're always moving from duality, right? We have to collapse that. Because if we're moving from duality again, then that means there's good and there's bad and there's hot and there's cold and there's wrong and there's right and there's off and they're on and all of those sort of things. And we're moving out of inner union, basically, in the mind, out of the feeling of oneness and peace and that interconnectedness with the twin, you know, without the yearning and all the freak out and the obsession and all that stuff, right? And so then we slip back into, oh, but that means this, right? So have that awareness of, you know, that waffle is normal. Everybody has that waffle thing that goes back and forth, but it's that waffle thing that keeps you in the waffle, basically. And so it's when you start feeling those feelings of inner union, those feelings of peace, the feeling of just bliss out of nowhere, the feeling of just this inner love, this inner buoyancy that isn't being caused by anything external to you. You just feel good and you don't know why. And you're not feeling that same draw to the twin and you're just feeling like you're good no matter what. Be with that, right? Allow yourself to be in that. Allow yourself to give yourself time to embody that, because you're literally coming into a new frequency, right? And you're anchoring that new frequency. You're anchoring that new vibration. And it's gonna feel a little odd, right? That's completely normal. It's gonna feel a little odd. It's gonna feel good, but it's also gonna feel a little weird until you anchor that, until you get used to this new vibration, right? This new frequency, this new reality, this new timeline that you're stepping into. So allow yourself to be that, right? Allow yourself to enjoy the fact that you're not spinning off in a million different directions anymore, right? And so when you're in that energy, when you're in that frequency, and you hear your voice, your inner dialogue, and your ego thing go, oh, this must be what inner union is. That means my twin's coming back. As soon as you hear that, because I don't know one divine feminine that doesn't happen with, including myself. As soon as you hear that, that's when you go, oh, thank you, voice. I don't need your help right now, right? We need to stay in this. You are a lighthouse. You are a pillar. You are shining your light. You are coming back into your sovereignty, and you need to stay in it and anchor it, right? Don't let the mind start tripping again and making you wobble and all of this stuff. Don't let the ego start saying, well, that means this. No, it doesn't mean anything other than the fact that now you feel better, right? Now you're in a relief state. Now you're in peace. Now you're shifting into oneness. All of these things, that's your focus. So just have that awareness as when this starts to happen, You need to continue to have your focus on your ascension. It doesn't mean that your ascension has ended. Inner union doesn't mean ascension ends, right? As I've said, you continue to expand, you'll continue to grow, you'll continue to have experiences. They're just going to be moving from unity consciousness now instead of from separation consciousness. But when we have this tagline on the twin flame dynamic, right? And we're like always looking to inner union being the goal, because the goal means that means I'm going to magnetize the physical twin back in, or neutrality being the goal, which I did a video about that a few days ago, magnetizing the twin. And if you're in neutrality, and the difference between neutrality and inner union, if we're thinking that that's the goal, then we're going to miss the goal, right? We're going to miss the goal, right? You're moving towards union with self, with God, with your masculine, with your higher feminine. That's what you're doing. You're ascending in consciousness. You're ascending in vibration. You're ascending in frequency, right? The physical aspect of the masculine, as I've said 1,000 times, is the cherry on top, but they are not the cake. You are the cake. So have the awareness when you're shifting into inner union, I'm the cake. I'm the prize. I am feeling amazing within my own union, right? It's their union too, because they're you. But when we're talking about the physical aspect of I'm coming into union so I can attract the physical masculine back in, and that's why I'm wondering where they're at, because I'm feeling this, and so I'm like, then have the awareness that that's still moving from lack, and it's still moving from fear, and it's still moving from the place of I've been working really hard to get to this place so that I can have a reward. It'll backfire, right? It will. And that's why I have people that come in and they say, but I was in inner union and I reached out to the twin, or I was in inner union and I heard from the twin. And then suddenly, I fell back into, the fear-based energy or the obsession or whatever else. And it just means that you weren't anchored yet. You weren't ready yet. So it was a test to have the masculine come back in to like your higher self being like, can you hold this frequency? Can you stand in your light? Can you stand in your sovereignty and be a beacon? Can you be the Wayshower that you have come here to be? Yes, you can. So we have to continue to like bring in the masculine, or bring in some sort of trigger to test where your frequency is if you're going to slip, right? It's not being mean. It's just like we need to make sure that you're ready to hold your light, right? It doesn't mean you've fallen backwards. It doesn't mean that you're like not, still moving forward. It just means that it takes time for you to anchor that. And it's still having that mastery of what's coming up for you in any given moment in regard to that reflection. And it's still having that mastery that you are doing this for you, right? The twin is you. So keep your focus on you, on the union within you. Yes, they follow it. But if that's the only reason that we're doing this, then it's never going to anchor, right? That's the thing. So if we're like, I'm feeling better, but then I'm wondering where they're at, then we're basically oscillating between separation consciousness and unity consciousness. And we're somewhere in between the 3D and the 5D frequency, right? And so then we're just manifesting that, and we're just creating it. So does inner union magnetize the twin back in physically? Yes. But if that's the reason that you're doing this, then it's not going to work, right? Because inner union has to be a you and you game, right? Because unity consciousness is a level at which you're not going to be concerned with whether or not the physical masculine is coming back in, right? Because you will have collapsed duality, and you will be back in oneness with self, right? You will be back in oneness with all, right? So hopefully that helps, guys. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. So a lot of videos today I just did. So love you guys. I hope you had an awesome day.